Let me share my screen here real quick. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. This was about 3 years ago now. I've been playing around with press releases for a long time. Main reason is as some of you guys might know, is I learned SEO by getting somebody out of a penalty. Back, 10 years ago, something like that. Anyways, and so I learned a lot about link building, anchor text, all the different variables about that stuff. And when you start going down the link building aspect of it, with you, whether it's for yourselves or your clients or whatever, especially nowadays, you really have to be careful. Not only that you get a decent link for the price, so to speak, but that the link is going to actually serve you the purpose by which anchor text you use and all the different variables. So, one of the things I love about press releases is the testing aspect of it, that you can do a pretty reasonable price. So, we're going to talk about a few services that I use. My main one, only because of the price, is AB Newswire. So I've been using that one for about 5 years now, 6 years. But main reason is that I can do a press release for about $30. So, and when you're testing stuff and doing stuff as far as, will this help, whether it be a GMB, or will this help, a YouTube video or whatever, it's a very reasonable cost to test with. So, and so that's where we start basically the first time we do our press releases. So the biggest thing that people need to understand is, first of all, why do you even use them? Okay, and there's a few reasons. One, and the first reason I started using them is that the client that I was working on, trying to get him out of penalty, his link pattern was really upside down. It was really, he didn't have many branded anchors. He didn't have many, raw anchors or URL anchors, but he had a ton of exact match. He had a ton of, Chinese links, all these other things. So back in those days, we used to call a press release pillow links. So we would say, hey, you need to go get a couple
Right.
hundred pillow links, and that'll kind of even out your link pattern. And it is still today probably, the most common reasons why people even look at doing press releases. But we look at them differently. So we look at them to build authority, to build trust. Again, that number of referring domains is an important number. So if your competitor has 5,000 links from 1,000 referring domains, and you're sitting there with 50 referring domains, well, you got a little bit of catch up to do. So my big disclaimer with these type of link building systems is most local businesses don't need a lot of backlinks. I talked about this and presented about this at the last Rank Masters event. And if you have a local plumber in a smaller mid-sized type of town, you don't need to have a line item detail every month to buy backlinks for that client. So now, if you're in a competitive town, you might need to buy some backlinks every once in a while, or produce some backlinks that will provide different variables for power. But for the most part, the biggest thing about linking local businesses is just pay attention to your competitors and what they're doing. Just because you have one guy dominating for that has 1,000 backlinks, but the second guy there only has 100, then you can kind of figure out that maybe backlinks isn't as important for that area or term. So it's not a blanket type of system. Map embeds is one of the biggest reasons we use it on the map side. Map links, another one that we use it on the side. Review links, image links, stuff like that. So every single thing that I do, if you guys have heard me talk about stuff, is I always have a plan. I don't just haphazardly go out and have it on my SOPs to say, hey, do a press release for this client. There's a reason why we're going to do a press release for this client. One of the biggest things that we look at again is, what process are we in the building phase? we typically always do a press release the very first month to announce the new client relationship with Salterra. So, and we'll typically do that on Salterra's site. So, I got 2 clients I've got to do a press release for that we signed up in the last week. But for this class, I decided to do a different type of press release. But press releases, in my mind, always need to have a trigger, and that trigger could be a new location, obviously, a new service, maybe a new management, a new manager. Something's got to trigger it. One of the most common things that we do is serving a number of years in a certain industry. That's like, I think those are the most powerful, because you're obviously building authority and trust for the brand, but you're also relationally putting that brand together with this service. The biggest thing that we look at when we look at doing these things is, how's this going to start? And the people that have seen me teach on this before, I always start my press releases as a blog post on the client's website or on my website, whatever is a primary feed, so to speak. So then but I've done press releases for clients that don't have a blog. So that's kind of a little bit different strategy for that kind of system. But since I'm going to talk about what I do today, so we're going to talk about. So every single thing I do on my side starts as a blog post. Okay, so I'm doing one. We're doing a whole kind of a, not rebranding, but we're doing a branding push on the medical side of our business. So I've been working on some medical pages and some other stuff. I've got a lot of lead gens on that side. I'm actually combining some of those lead gens together just because they're not, in a management standpoint, feasible right now. But anyway, so I'm getting ready to do a press release about it. So a lot of people ask me, this is the Aveda theme. The Aveda theme does things a lot different than a lot of other themes. We have a lot more flexibility. So some of the stuff that I show you might not be able to be done on your theme, but the concept's still there. It just might take you a few steps longer. So anyway, so me and ChatGPT wrote this press release. I have I have a little thing here that I put in here. Let me bring this over here. And if you guys have, in the Rank Bachelors group, you guys have my chat prompts, but this is the only prompt I use. So and this is also after I've introduced ChatGPT to the brand and to the services and everything for this brand. So it makes the press release come out a lot better, especially a lot more personalized. So, but they all start with a blog post. So in this blog post, there's a few reasons why I like to do this. One is because I get to control the internal links. You guys have heard me say this time and time again. I personally believe internal links are the number one ranking factor in Google right now. And I think it's also a big portion of how to get AI optimized, which we can maybe talk about next time. But the biggest thing is that, your internal anchor text, kind of it combines and supports each other. So for instance, this one's, celebrating, serving 10 years in the medical industry. So obviously this is in the medical topic of our agency, so to speak. We have medical, we have pets, and we have some home services. We're pretty niche down there. So, but we're not very broad, especially on the marketing side. On the web design side, Elizabeth's a little bit more broad. Okay. So anyway, it starts with a blog post. So typical layout of a blog post. I put this in here this morning just to save us a little bit of time. I do want to add an image in here. One of the things that I asked for in the chat is giving me, I want, image titles, descriptions, and alt tags. So it gives me this down here. So I'm just going to pull this out for a second. So it's not that I'm showing you guys how to do an image by any means, but this is just how we do it, because every single blog post gets its own personalized image. I use Photoshop. You guys can use whatever. All of our images for blogs are 1,000 pixel wide, pretty standard. But here's where we get a little bit different. So we want to title these things. So I'm going to title this, Salterra Digital 10-year milestone in the Medical services. The cool thing about images is you really don't have to worry about title length and description length and stuff like that. Medical services. Sorry, can't spell in the industry. Then save that. Oops, you know what? I saved it in the wrong spot. But anyways, I'll find it. So I definitely want to put an image in here. I typically will have a couple sentences. You know, you guys do your own formatting and everything. I'm just showing you kind of what I do. Let me find this image now. Bring it over here. And just like with any WordPress, we get to put in a different alt and description. I don't use captions. I never have used captions. Some of the things that you'll see here in a second. So the description, and you'll see that in the prompt too. I'll change the description, and then I'll put in the alt tag. So the alt tags that we use is as a conversion. So if you know the reasons why alt tags are important, it's mainly for the hearing impaired, the blind, all that stuff, because their browsers will look at the alt tag, and that would be how they communicate with that person. And so we've always turned it around to being a conversion factor. So, and Google really seems to like it. So I don't recommend having the same title description and alt text just because you're just wasting real estate. If you have real estate to be different, be different. So, let's see, I'll put this in center. Okay. So no big rocket science here. Okay. So there are
Hey, Terry, I started using ChatGPT to create those for me. So it'll vary them according to what is the optimized version of it. So without having your knowledge, you know, and all that, just put it in there and say create tags for this image, and it'll spit them out for me.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. It's in every single prompt that we use, whether we're building a new page, a new post, a press release, you know, all kinds of different things. You know, we really spend a lot of time, and I'll get two variables of two titles, two descriptions, and two alt text. And then I'll mix them up a little bit because I'll probably use a different alt text and different title and description in the actual press release at AB Newswire. But for here, you know, that's why I get two. So, but yeah, you're exactly right. ChatGPT is awesome at stuff like this because I ask it to include LSIs and semantics and entities and all the different things in the description and stuff. So all that stuff just makes it that much easier. So okay. So one of the things, like I said, that I love about doing this as a blog post on my own site is I get to control the internal links. So I actually built a new page this weekend. It's my new medical page. Medical page. And so that's going to be my first thing that I want to internally link to. So internally linking, I can use exact match. I can do brand. My flexibilities are all over the place. But I tend to use exact match on my internal links for this type of system just because I want that power, because you'll see in the second step, I want that power to go to those pages and the other blog posts related ones. So I typically will skip the first two paragraphs like always, and I'll find something down here to link to. You got the internal links are very important. So we typically in our SOPs, we have one link to the page, and then we have one link to a related blog post. Then we have one link to the GBP, and that link can be the CID, it can be the long URL. I typically like the long URL. So anyway, so we're gonna look and see where we can place this link. We don't do any. We try to find the best place to put the link in without changing the content. I don't like to change and manipulate the content just to get a good anchor text. I'll look around and try to find something that's close, or you know, I will probably never recreate it, so to speak. Okay. Let's see what I want to do here because this is going to my new medical page. Healthcare digital strategy. That's a good one right there. So I'll grab that and then I'll link this. You can also use ChatGPT too. You can I can tell ChatGPT after it wrote this for me to say where's the best place to internally link with this page and this anchor text. It's a little bit convoluted because it'll give you a whole bunch of different things. So my staff and I, we've just kind of learned to do the best variable that we can for that page. The second link I need is a related blog post. So this is one that we did a year ago. I actually got a GBP, so that's how I announced the GBP. And so we definitely want to grab this one because not only is it a press release, an old press release, but it's also a press release about medical. And we'll typically throw this down here towards the bottom. And I will do a whole freaking sentence if I have to. So I typically, my anchor text rule is no less than 2 words and typically no more than 5. But because you really don't want, I've done whole sentences and I've done tests with all that, didn't see any improvement one way or another. But the biggest thing that we want to make sure is that the anchor text is accurate to the page it's going to. So don't put an anchor text saying one thing and all of a sudden somebody goes there or Google goes there and it's not the same related topic or whatever. Don't surprise Google and don't surprise the person on the web page. They'll leave and that's not good. So make sure your anchor texts are a continuing kind of story or support article or something around what the topic already is. So this one's about medical, and it's not about web design or SEO or anything like that right now. So I keep it pretty broad. Now, if I was going to come up here and say that Salterra just finished its 500th medical website, then now I'd be using some website anchor text. Okay, so just make sure you try to keep everything topically relevant. Medical digital services. That's what I want. I'll grab that sucker. I'll do that. There's the 2 anchors that I have, and now I need one more for my GBP. Okay, so where do I have my map? My map's gone. Oh, nope, sorry. Google changed their Chrome. Okay, so I have multiple maps in the medical industry, but this one I'm going to probably use this one right here. This is my latest one, and the reason why I want to do that is just because I want to make sure that I'm going after the right GBP. Because there's 2 things I'm going to do here. One is I'm going to embed the map, and 2 is I'm going to link through anchor text to the map. So I'll probably just do this one. So let me see if I can get this one to come up by itself. There we go. And now I can grab the URL. One of the things I hate about this new freaking thing Google did is they took all that away from us. And so copy URL. Now I'm just going to throw this in a text file real quick because I want to make sure the URL is right. The whole map thing you're seeing right now is all brand new. Okay, yep, it's right. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that post again, and now I'm going to put my map link in. So my map link is typically going to be at the very bottom, and it can be branded. It can be branded keyword. It can be all kinds of stuff. So one of the reasons why I said I like this is because this is the one I'm going to use to map my link, to link my map. Any external link in my rule always goes to open a new tab. Add that link. Now we're good here. Okay. Oh, one more thing. I got to do the embed. So now we're going to put in the embed. Where's that dang thing again? Grab the share, embed a map. I actually like to do small. I don't like to do medium. No specific reason why.
Terry, you just had a minor typo on services, just as a.
Oh, yeah. Good catch. My little red line would have shown up.
Yeah.
Is this something that you have SOPs out for your team, or is this something that you normally do?
Yeah, no, we have SOPs for our team. We also have, I also have it in my courses that I sell in the university. But yeah, definitely, I'm happy to put the SOPs up there because it gets really detailed after. This is just the first step.
So how do do you keep your team accountable? I know you have kind of a family business, so hopefully they are, but for the rest of us who are hiring outside people with this kind of detailed stuff, like what's your best practice to keep people doing everything right?
Well, we have a QC system. We have our CRM is very, very good at making sure one task is completed before the next one can even start. And this is actually a 3-person or 3-team process. Our press releases are so. Our content team will do the content and put it through Grammarly Pro, and then create the blog post and the internal links. And then my link team will go in my GBP team will go in and grab other links because I want some from reviews or a GBP post or something like that for the next phase. And then my off page will do the actual press release with AB Newswire. So it's a step process, but the cool thing about it is the way we do these, you only need to do these maybe once every 6 months. So because we stack them. If you guys have ever seen me teach about anything, right, I'm a huge believer in stacking. I don't care if it's a good backlink you got or whatever. One of the biggest things I see that people come to me with complaints is, well, I did a press release and nothing happened. Well, my first question is, what did you do to the press release? Well, I didn't do anything. So you got a spreadsheet of 200 or 300 or 400 referring domains and you didn't do anything with that. Well, I'm sorry, but you should have done something especially with the good backlinks. All those 80, 90% of those links are bullshit, but there's good backlinks in there. And the good backlinks you send other links to. That's with second and third press releases. So basically, let me show you this now. So this is the blog post we just finished. All ready to go. Now I can control these links in and out. It doesn't have any different variables in it. I've got my CRO type stuff. I've got why trust Salterra, all that good stuff for this one here. And then I've got links to, all my different stuff. But anyways, now this is the biggest thing I want. I want this hyperlink. So this hyperlink is going to be a branded anchor text in AB Newswire. So probably be Salterra Medical Services or Salterra Medical Digital Services or something. And it'll link back to this blog post. So, and it'll also get naturally a link to the homepage. So the biggest thing you got to be cautious about with press releases, especially if you're building referring domains, is you need to make sure that you don't lopside yourself. So you always want to make sure that you're sending the same amount of links to your home page that you are to an inner page. So if I'm doing, an inner page link, naturally AB Newswire is going to have, I think it's salterrasite.com as a raw anchor. And then I can probably do a Salterra Digital Services branded anchor. So it all depends. But the biggest thing is you just don't want to go. I've seen people come to me that, they kind of tanked. I mean, it's, again, having too many referring domains, or you have a link pattern that's out of whack, and you might not see that for a long time. It's not like Google's going to come to your website one day and say, "Oh, look what you just did with this press release 2 months ago." It takes a while for Google to make those type of decisions. But the biggest thing you want to look at is my anchors out of whack. If I'm getting 300 referring domains from this press release, that means I have 300 anchors going to my inner page. I need to make sure I have 300 anchors going to my home page. That just makes sure that your link equalization is accurate. Okay. So when I do go to AB Newswire, I'm going to take this. This is the cool thing about doing it this way. So I'm actually going to take this. Sorry. I'm actually going to take this whole thing. I don't need that. Yeah, I'll put that. And I'm going to go to AB Newswire. And I'm going to go add a press release. It gets super slick. Oop, I got to log in first. Sorry. I already logged in. And I pay $100 a month just naturally for this. I'll spend a lot more depending on how many press releases I do. But I want to paste that press release here, and then I always have to fix the formatting, which sucks. But anyways, oh good, it did it for me. Now in my Chat GPT though, I have different titles and descriptions that I get to use. Okay, because I asked for 2 each. So this one, I'm going to use this title. And then I can put any type of summary. And then I definitely want to upload an image. So I'm going to grab that same image that I did from for this one to begin with. Choose file. Upload. Okay, now I can have another bunch of text here. And you can do all kinds, don't keyword stuff this, but you can do all kinds of stuff. I think they allow like 300 or 400 characters per description. So now here I have all the stuff. Okay, so I had links that I brought over from the other way, but I'm going to break these just because I'm going to do different links. Phone number could stay, obviously. And I should have one more. Actually, that one I'm going to keep to the GBP. Okay, so this link here, the blog post link, I'm definitely going to put towards the top. Okay, I really want to try something or try to find something branded. There we go. Perfect. Like that. Make sure I can put a title in it, so I'll just grab a different title. I don't believe in reusing anything. I just have a whole bunch of stuff. Opens in a new tab. Perfect. Insert. Okay. So, and I have my map link, and I'm allowed one more. So let's go back and grab this medical one. Newswire. Put this one down here somewhere. Again, I want something branded. I don't want to do a title. I got to put my map embed in too. There we go. Okay, insert. Then let's put the map embed in. Where's my map? Oh, down here again, that stupid new Chrome thing. This one, I don't care what size it is.
Terry, why did you choose a link and not keep the same link?
I couldn't hear you. What?
I said, why did you change the links and not keep the same links that were already in the blog?
Just because, again, I wanted one to go to the blog post, new blog post, and then I wanted one to. I wanted one for the blog post, the new one that we just created, and then the other one. I could have left the other one, but I just like mixing up the anchor, so to speak. Works a little bit better. And again, the biggest thing is once this is submitted, I can't change it. So that's why I like the blog post, because the blog post, even if I start ranking for whatever term I'm going after, I can change that blog post into internal links. I can add another one. I can take one away. I can change it. I have full control of that blog post. I don't have full control once this gets submitted. So, I do want to mix them up and just kind of make them a little bit different, but still have them in the same thing. So the very first press release that we do is typically branded and maybe branded keywords. Okay, so this one I'm doing branded keywords mainly because my website can handle it. So my website's very old, it's very powerful. I've got a lot of backlinks already on it. But if this would have been a new client or a local client, I'd probably just use the brand. I wouldn't use branded keywords. So, especially as far as stacking, because the second one is when you're going to get into branded keywords. So, so that's how we do it on the AB News. Now I just select my categories. There's a few ones I always select. I always select business. I always select US. I'm allowed 5. So this one's around medical. So I want to probably try to get something in there. Fitness, that doesn't really. Yep, health and medicine. Professional service, that's considered medical. And then one more. So one more I could probably do. I don't know. Anyway, so you can set up your company in here. Don't look at all my companies. Medical marketing, so I already have that. It's already set up in there. Now here's meta tags. I can put in some more stuff in here. Let's grab this one. And then the keywords, I don't put too many in here because I really haven't seen that this matters much. Political marketing, political websites, whatever. I don't really need any premiums. The premiums just cost money. So if I was doing a one-off or somebody purchased a press release package from me, and maybe it's a website that they're not doing blogs on, then maybe I'll do a premium because it will get some little bit better backlinks. But again, I don't have any control of the endpoint. So I really don't do much of these anymore. So I can just keep it standard. And then right now, I think it's going to cost me 3 credits out of 14, 3 or 4. Data publish now. Let me see. Okay, so it's going to cost me 2 points. That's pretty crazy how cheap it is. So I could do, out of $100, I could do how many? You got 14 points, about 7 press releases. So anyways, we submit it. And then it typically takes about 45 minutes to an hour to get it approved. This is the coolest thing about EB Newswire. I will have the referring domain links within about 3 or 4 hours. So if I'm stacking this thing, like most people that I teach do, like the next one, I'll go to EIN Newswire. So I go to AB Newswire, EIN Newswire, and then 38 Digital. You guys talked about Randy's press releases. His press releases are absolutely the best. There's nobody better, hands down. He also has, depending on which package you got, he'll build backlinks to your press release. So it adds a little extra kind of incentive or boost to it, so to speak. So typically when you start doing these processes, you come up with about 1,500 referring domains between AB Newswire, EIN Newswire, and 38 Digital. And then nice thing about doing the blog post, this was a press release I did, I don't know, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. Again, blog post first, and then AB Newswire, EIN Newswire, 38 Digital. But here's the cool thing: is now I get to add schema. So when this is the article for this 13 years of excellence, and same as, there's 1,530 referring domains. So every single referring domain I got from these press release stacks went into schema as same as. So that's the power of all this stuff. So now Google doesn't have to try to figure out, is this link related to this link, related to this link, related to this link. It's all there. So, and this, when I started testing this about 5 years ago, especially on the schema side, it was amazing how long press releases last now. I've got press releases out there. Randy's got press releases that I did for him with schema, 3 and 4 years old. So that's the cool thing about the power of stacking press releases. It's just not spending $300 a one and done thing and then sit there and be all upset and go on Facebook and say press releases don't work. So it all depends on what you do with the press release. Of course, what the goal is. If the goal is to introduce a brand new location and get some foundational links to start building some GMB stuff to, also remember, this is 1,500 embeds. 1,500 map embeds, because there's a map embed on every single one of these. So that's when you start being able to take your clients the very first month and say, damn, what'd you do? Well, all I did was a press release so far. So, but now we have some foundational links, because most websites, they don't have many foundational links. So foundational links are, your stacks, your IFTT, especially your brand ring, stuff like that. If you have a local business, of course, you need citations. Those are all your foundational links. And then a press release comes in and starts just taking those foundational links and the links that you're working in on steroids. Then it just starts going nuts. So people always ask me all the time, and I'm very biased, what's the fastest way to rank a map? And mine is press releases. So because I'm getting 1,500 embeds, I'm getting 1,500 long URL links to my map. I mean, I'm building systems to that GBP, and you'll start ranking very, very quickly, along with citations. And I've done press releases that I'll include a good citation. If I get it, Manta is one of the #1 citations in the world. In Manta, you can also go in and optimize that location, that citation for you. And I've done press releases with the Manta link. So you can use different stuff depending on how powerful of a system that you've built. And and just be creative about it. Think outside the box. That's why I like sending links to Google reviews. If I get a really good long Google review, I'll send a backlink to it. If it's a little short one, I don't usually send backlinks. I like the long ones that have a lot of content. Hopefully they've mentioned the service and location, stuff like that we try to teach our people to do. But, that's always stuff you want to send backlinks to, and press releases is the cheapest way to do it. You just saw that thing cost me what, $100? So that thing cost me $20 for that press release I just did. Before ChatGPT and all these great things to do content, it would cost me $30 just for the content. And then I'd have to pay for the press releases. But now I write press releases in ChatGPT. I've got a library full of them, so I can pull them down for any client at any time, and we can do some backlinking for them. So new pages is, if you guys know, I build pages in clusters. I'll do a press release and I'll do one backlink to one of the clusters because they're all connected together, just to get those indexed quicker, just to get Google's notification, and so I can start getting credit quicker. And that all happens because of press releases. Any questions? I can't even see.
Yeah, Terry, I got a question.
Yes.
You mentioned EI Newswire. What was the other one?
38 digital.
Oh, 38 digital.
Yeah.
And when you say stacking these press releases, are you suggesting that exact press release that you just did on AB Newswire, you're doing the exact same press release on those other two entities, or are you doing different modifications to those press releases?
They're the first two, like AB Newswire and EIN Newswire, are typically the same because they don't have the same, subsidiaries that they post to. But I do like 3 different ones, and it's very easy to do in chat. Unless it's a pain in the ass to get 3 approved if your client has to approve all of them. But yeah, I do. The real ultimate world would be have 3 different ones, all related, all same topic, just written differently, and then anchored differently. So the biggest thing that we do when I get this press release response back of the referring domains, I'll take this press release and I'll put it in Google. I'll probably wait 48 hours. So I'll take this title and I'll throw it in Google. There's not going to be anything there yet. That's really a mess. So yeah, nothing there. So once the press release, the referring domains get done, then I'll go in here 48 hours, maybe 3 days, maybe a long weekend. But the first links that show up here from the press release, those are the links that I send links to with the second press release. So the second press release doesn't have any links to the main website except for the homepage. So the only time I link that blog is AB Newswire. The second stack or the second press release links to the top press release results. So I'll throw them all in here, and they'll typically be 5 or 6 that really index quickly, that Google gives a lot of credit to. And then I'll take 2 of those, and those will be my anchors for my second press release.
Okay.
The third press release now does the same thing. I'm doing a new search, so I'm grabbing new, fresh anchors from 38 or from EIN Newswire, plus some of the more powerful ones that AB Newswire is just now indexing. So those will be my exact match, 38 digital exact match. That's the only time, but it's at the third tier. So exact match with the URL going to the second press release. The second press release goes to the first press release. First press release goes to the blog post.
Gotcha. So that's true stacking.
True stacking. Yeah. And the whole thing, by the way, will cost you probably right about $400.
400.
And I upsell that to my clients. When it's time to do a press release, they pay for that. So then, I'll work out a deal with Randy. If I order 5 press releases, can I get a better package, stuff like that.
And Terry, just to clarify on those second and third layers, what does the content of that look like? Are you just switching it up from the first level, but then including the links?
Yeah, I've done it different ways. I've included like the press release. I've done the same press release in AB Newswire and EIN, and then I will do a second different one for 3D Digital. The biggest thing, like EIN Newswire, I'm only allowed 3 links. So that's the one negative I don't like about EIN Newswire. But so I have to actually remove some links from like AB Newswire. I think AB allows 7. Randy's is unlimited. I can put a link in every freaking paragraph I want, but I don't.
What would be the max that you would recommend putting in?
Probably between 5 and 7, depending on But most of them, like I said, 2 out of every 5 go to my map. So, and I think we've all tested Google Maps. I've thrown the kitchen sink at these things, and I can't get it to crash. So now it's just kind of feeding it some different link juice of going, whether it be going to the long URL. I don't do CID anymore. CID was kind of overused for a long time, but I'll use the short URL, the long URL. The one thing I love about the long URL, this is something I've taught about too. So the long URL you can manipulate. I don't know if you ever heard of what a manipulated URL is, but so can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyways, you can manipulate this. So this right here comes from Google. That's the name of my GBP. Okay, but I can change that. I can put in Salterra plus web plus design plus medical marketing company. I can put in all kinds of stuff as long as I don't break the sequence of getting past the hash marks. But that's what a manipulated URL. So I will definitely manipulate this on every single press release. It won't be the same link. So, one might be, I might even take Salterra out, and just say medical marketing company or medical marketing services, kind of get more exact, because this is what we found out with Google is no matter what the hell we do, it's not going to have a negative effect as far as suspending a listing. It's not going to put you in penalty or anything like that. So, but we do this all the time, and especially like images. If I'm linking to a review or an image that's a GBP image, then I'll definitely manipulate the hell out of this thing. So I love, and you can't do that with the short URL. You can't do that with the CID. You can only do it with the long URL. You can also, some people teach it. I don't really understand it enough to teach it, but you can change a little bit in the lat long. I don't play that game, but there are people out there that talk about that. But I definitely will manipulate the title of the GBP, and works out pretty cool. It's pretty slick. So we do that a lot. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing when you look at doing the whole press release system. This is kind of a map. So it's kind of crazy. I can put this whole presentation for you guys up in the group. But the biggest thing is that you got to have a strategy of how you're going to map this thing out. So especially if you have staff doing it. So I'm very specific when I put our map process or a map process for a certain client and teamwork, it'll be mapped out very specifically which anchors to use, which link they go to. There's no guesswork. Like I said, because once they're posted, you can't change them. You can't go, oh shit. I've had people hyperlink half a word on accident. They didn't go through the whole thing, or we found a misspelled word. I've had people hyperlink a misspelled word. All that stuff is kind of oh shit bummers type stuff because you can't go back and ask for an edit. So the QC part for us is after it's posted as a blog post, then the QC gets involved as far as they check the AB Newswire. We leave it in draft. She's the only one that's allowed to submit it once it's approved. And then same with EIN Newswire. 38 Digital, we pretty much just send Randy the press release and tell him which anchors and URLs we want to use. They just build it. So it's pretty slick. But And this is kind of what you get. So, you know, I tell people your press release should be 700 words. I like 1,000, but 700 if you're going to have a nice, you know, trust box or about Salterra box or anything like that. So, but we always target 1,000. Insert anchor text. Like I said, 3 is our minimum. You know, sometimes we'll go to 5, depending on what the strategy of the press release is. You know, embed the map for sure. Exact match anchor to the long URL. That's what I was just talking about. I used to put it up in Google Doc. This was a slick system until Google started doing redirects on their URLs. So we used to it used to start as a blog post, and then we do a Google Doc, and then the Google Doc. Let me see if this is still live. Should be. So this is a public Google Doc. Yep, there it is. So we used to do a public Google Doc, and then that would also be an anchor. We would put in one of the, I think it was in the EIN Newswire. We'd put an anchor to the Google Doc. But the cool thing about this one is you used to be able to, you have the same links. They're all branded. But at the bottom, now here's the list of all the syndications. So we used to do this religiously, but now Google has changed all these to a Google redirect. So it goes to this thing and says a redirect notice. So it doesn't actually pass any juice through. And that's a bummer. So I've tried different kind of hacks to try to go around this thing. I had a hack for it for a while, but then it got broken. But this was the cool thing about putting it up in Google Docs. So I've also done, you know, press release sitemaps. Those didn't do much good as, you know, much as I thought. I did a sitemap dot, you know, or a press release.sitemap.xml, and it didn't seem to do much. So I have literally tested all these things for 2 reasons. One is it's very inexpensive to test, and I'm a huge tester. I test all kinds of stuff. And 2, once I do find a result that works, it's very easy to implement to everybody else. Unlike schema, because we're always testing schema, but schema is different. Once we find something new and great that works in schema, it's a chore going back to all of our clients and updating that schema. So where press releases come in, as far as an agency, this is some of the coolest stuff that we can do really quick. You know, we typically will have a press release to a client within the first 7 days of them signing up with us. So, you know, we're very fast. We want to announce that relationship. We want them to get some backlinks. We want Salterra to get some backlinks, you know, and we want to start some foundational processes. We don't stack the first month. The first month is just basically an announcement and giving us both sides of the fence a little bit of juice. And then we go in and we'll do one maybe in 60 or 90 days once we have a full strategy down. I don't send backlinks to a bad website. And almost every single website that we build or that we take on, you know, number one, every single person that comes to us for SEO gets a new website. That's mandatory. They don't even have a choice. Otherwise, you don't work with us. Secondly, is that we found out real soon or real quick that if I send a lot of backlinks to a bad website, it's going to have a negative effect. So we don't do that anymore because almost every single person that comes to us needs work the first month, maybe even the first 2 months. Maybe it's an internal anchor problem. Maybe it's just a content problem. Maybe they got 17 H1s on their pages. You know, all the different shit that we walk into. We don't do a stack at the very front of the beginning because we don't want to waste that money. You know, we want to get the website solid. We want to fix whatever we got to fix as far as the technical side. And then once all that's done and once Google's seen the new site and we're starting to see at least a stagnant or an uptick, then we'll do the press release stuff. So, but we definitely do one the very first month. That's just an announcement. It does give us a few links, obviously, to the homepage, but you know that's pretty much all it does. So it's better for Salterra, obviously, than it is the client because I get to do it as a blog post on Salterra. So, but like I said, I don't stack those. So I don't do schema on. I mean, we do schema on them, but we don't go in and put 1,500 referring domains in the schema.
Terry, how did you get to $400? You said the first one from AB.
mainly it's the package we get from Randy. Randy is the most expensive, but he also is the best and has the best packages and the best, the best type of things as far as links that he goes after. So EIN is typically about $100. Like AB Newswire is super cheap, and then Randy's typically between 250 and 300, depending on the package.
You're talking about the advanced.
Digital?
I'm sorry,
Randy,
what's that?
Randy is 38 digital?
38 digital,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if this is the best, why do you use it last?
Mainly because I like the juice. So if I'm just doing one press release for a person, it'll be just Randy. But yeah, I like the end juice of Randy's because I don't want to put all the juice up front and then have AB and EIN kind of shit links, so to speak. So, you always put if somebody's coming to me with a time.com link, I'm going to give them other links to link that to first because I'd rather have the stack boost. Just because I think Google likes it better. I think it gives, it definitely has that buffer feeling for it. But yeah, if I'm just doing I got a press release I'm doing for I started doing some GBP low hanging fruit stuff that, we all saw at Rank Masters. I'm not liking it too much, but we do include one press release with that package, and it's Randy's. So because Randy's is the best, especially for one.
So if you were just going to do that first announcement that you're working with people, you would use Randy's.
No, I wouldn't use Randy's just because, again, I want a low cost thing just to announce the partnership, so to speak.
Because you're not sure the website's good yet, so you're going to wait
Exactly,
until
for sure.
good. Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
But then you're saying like Randy's premium package includes EIN and AB, so you wouldn't use that package because then you'd be burning those.
No, I would. It doesn't include AB and EIN, but it does have some very, very powerful links.
So, it says it on the website. So what I got from what you were saying was do those individually and then stack it with like maybe Randy's advanced package for $197.
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, it really is a really good system. You guys, like I said, test these things out. I mean, you can really do, especially around the GBP stuff, because that's changing all the time. So I'm even started sending links to the search result. So like I said, that Salterra search that showed all four of mine, I would send links to that URL because all four of those maps are going to get some credit for it. So, so don't just assume like everybody out there that's just send it to this page and, be creative with your stuff, and just test it because you'll find some pretty cool stuff when you start looking around at what you want to do and how it works and everything.